Welcome patrons! Last time I did an overview of Knight Errant, the number one question on everyone's lips was, would I do Magekiller? The answer is yes. Now before going into it, while Magekiller was released just like Knight Errant in 5 separate issues, the copy I have mushes it all into one giant pile, so you guys are also getting it as one giant pile. Also, I apologize for the quality of my voice. While I am feeling better, my sinuses are not. So I have very nasally vocal quality right now. Now, without further ado, Magekiller. The plot. The comic opens up with the melodramatic view on mages by Tessa, on how what mages really want is actually power. Also, that's Marius. Both of them are mage killers, for the right price that is. Tessa goes into the history of their current job, which is essentially killing a blood mage. Marius is described as a very talented mage killer who is serious and has a passion against blood magic, although takes no pleasure in killing. And here I want to take a quick break from Magekiller already to talk about Marius, because this isn't actually his first appearance. A few months after Dragon Age Inquisition came out, BioWare had a few blog posts of short stories, namely about Samson and Calpurnia. In Calpurnia's story, called Paying the Ferryman, it describes her past as a slave, how she fell in love with another slave who was her master's bodyguard. Eventually this man was sold to another, leaving Calpurnia's heart broken. That other slave was Marius. So going into this comic, you know that Marius has been trained specifically to kill mages, and Tessa goes on to say that she believes that Marius sees no other option for himself and that killing mages is all that he's good for. Oh, and Tessa is your typical plucky rogue who is just in it for the money. With the job done, the two of them are always on the move, keeping an eye out for enemies made along the way. Tessa returns to Marius after getting payment from their last job and is followed back from the pier. We also learn that Marius has struggles with reading, but enjoys Varric's book, apparently even the naughty bits. Tessa also apparently reads to him. Anyway, they get out their weapons to greet the elf that follows Tessa from the pier, and Marius gets very offended when suggested that he owns Tessa. The elven man goes on to explain that his master, a magister of Tevinter, wants to hire the two, and Marius promptly tells him that he will not be returning to Tevinter, grabbing the elven man by the collar. Marius is only stopped when the elf screams out that, it doesn't matter because we jump to them getting the information and going for the bait. Tessa and Marius watch the ruins and it's a trap, but they go in anyway. We learn that the elven man's actual master is Archon Radanis, the ruler of Tevinter. Here we also learn that Tessa is from Navarra and is from the Forsythia family. You may remember that name from Dragon Age Inquisition.
And what else did Lady Forsythia say? That she'd rather drown herself than help the Inquisition.
We find out that Marius won his freedom at some point, but Tessa steps in and accepts the deal for Marius, and Archon Radanis asks him to kill the Venatori. We jump to the three of them in a strangely casual manner, discussing why the leader of Tevinter wants to eliminate a group that is trying to return Tevinter to its former glory. Basically, if Tevinter makes a formal move for more power, the Divine will be forced by the other nations to call for a war against Tevinter. The Qunari will probably also make their move against Tevinter, and the nation will probably crumble, which will probably also lead to the Qunari moving against the rest of Thedas again. Marius doesn't exactly buy this line of reasoning, but agrees for it anyway. They are given 4 mages to kill, all leaders of the Venatori. We get a montage of killing 3 of them, with Tessa suspecting that Radanis is probably going to kill them in the end as well. The 4th ends up being Calpurnia. Her and Marius reunite briefly, Marius telling her that he cannot kill her, and she offers to pay him if he is in need of money. Tessa catches them, and after a quick argument about how they're going to get out of this alive, Calpurnia helps them get out safely, which Tessa points out by this point they have killed 3 major Venatori leaders, and Calpurnia knows this, but still gets them out anyway. Calpurnia still cares for Marius more than the Venatori. We skip ahead 3 months. Tessa and Marius are in their frostbacks killing another round of assassins that Archon Radanis sent after them. And here we get a good sense of when all of this has taken place because the breach happens. We jump to a scene of what is presumed to be Charter and Crestwood receiving a message while we learn that Tessa doesn't exactly get along with her family, and that there was something about a stolen ring and a wedding that needed to be called off, and Tessa goes off for adventure rather than living like the dead. We jump again to Tessa and Marius doing some crazy stunt to kill demons coming from a rift and trying to save nearby villagers. Marius gets hurt, again, and the two lead the saved villagers to another town. Tessa mends his wounds, reads to him a bit, and after he has fallen asleep, heads down to the bar to meet a mysterious woman who we know to be Charter. Charter asks for them to join the Inquisition. We jump in time again. Marius and Tessa are working for the Inquisition, and Tessa is in a romantic relationship with Charter. We see our mage killers in the Hissing Way spying on a Venatori camp. The two have gotten word that they are to meet another Inquisition group, which ends up being the Bull's Chargers and Dorian. I'm not exactly sure why the Iron Bull is not with them, however. Dorian introduces himself, which Marius completely ignores. The group ends up making a plan to free the slaves and kill the Venatori. It works, Dorian saves Marius, and the two get on speaking terms again. We jump to Tessa and Marius in Skyhold. They had come back a little late from their last adventure, and now most of the Inquisition are in the Arbor Wilds for what we know to be the quest What Pride Has Wrought. Marius is a bit upset that he didn't get to go because he has found meaning in fighting for a cause other than kill mages. And then, boom, the breach opens again. Because most people are gone and the road to the breach is dangerous, Tessa, Marius, and Sutherland and his adventuring company is quickly gathered to go and clear the way for the Inquisitor. Before they go, Charter gives Tessa one request. Don't die for Marius, because she isn't sure that he would do the same for Tessa. Here we go into a bit of unneeded drama. Although a good question to ask, why do these two stick together? Tessa enjoys helping Marius because Tessa enjoys being needed. But what does Marius get out of the deal? They don't really give you a good answer, just imply that Marius gets company. We see Sutherland's company, Tessa and Marius, clear the way and let the Inquisition make way to defeat Corypheus. And it all ends with Tessa and Marius smiling that they got to help save the world. And that's it, folks! Talking points. Tie-ins with Dragon Age Inquisition. There are a lot of recognizable imagery from Dragon Age Inquisition. The Keep on Crestwood, Charter, Sutherland and his company, Meriden, Skyhold, the mountain pass from the beginning of the game, the final fight, that stupid hole near the war room. While it is cool to see things that I recognize, I almost feel like it does the comic a disservice, as the recognition of places almost made me feel like the comic story was a bit rushed and it uses things that have already been explained to hang a story on. Which, speaking of that, reception. Magekiller has had mixed reviews, and honestly I would say they are well deserved. While Knight Errant had a story to string the 5 issues together, Magekiller didn't really have that. Even as presented as one large mush as I am doing for you here, you can probably easily guess where each issue started and stopped. While the ideas in Magekiller are interesting, they don't really go into any depth or give any time to let them be interesting. Were Magekiller instead a large novel, I think the same basic storyline could actually work very well. I just think the story they wanted to tell here just isn't for comics. Dalish and Skinner. During the scene with the Bull's Chargers, you see Skinner talking about killing Shems in one scene and then using magic with her bow in the next, which is sort of Dalish's thing. So yes, this was later confirmed to be an editing error and that Dalish is supposed to be the one with the magic bow. And while I did skip over the fight with the Bull's Chargers, it's actually a fun little sequence and would recommend at least checking that part out, especially if you're a diehard Bull Chargers fan. Dragon Age 4 speculations. I said it before, but I think the whole reason for Magekiller and Knight Errant is to set up new companions. I'd be very surprised if we don't see Tessa and Marius in the next game. While the comics have mixed reviews, I actually like the two and would love to see them properly explored. Why do these two stick together? Why is Marius so quiet? Is Tessa happy with Charter? Does Calpurnia and Marius ever meet back up? Is Marius going to be the new Alistair/Cullen, and is this BioWare subverting our expectations of getting a man who was trained to hunt mages from the Chantry by giving us a man who was trained to hunt mages by the Imperium? And that, dear patrons, is all that we know on Magekiller. Honestly though, it's a fun little comic, and while I would make it last on the best Dragon Age comics list, the art, especially the cover art, is actually really beautiful. If nothing else, go give the artist some money. Do you still have lingering questions, proof that I'm wrong, comments about your own fan theory? Feel free to tweet me at Gilderthon on Twitter or send a PM to user Gillanon on Reddit. Dress your all.